Hey guys, good morning. How you doing today? I want to talk to you about some things that are happening in the news across the EU and specifically how Claude has reacted to this first. And I'm talking about the watermarking feature that they have rolled out in the beginning of August. Obviously, right now we're in 2026. So, as of the summer of 2026, the EU is trying to put more strict standards onto how AI is used and tracing that back. And so, what Claude has done in reaction to this has created a watermark. Now, this isn't your typical watermark like you would have on the white space, where if you were to copy and paste the text to something else and then highlight that white space black or something, you could then see that watermark, or it would actually be like a watermark of a symbol. They've done this at a model level, and meaning that even if you're running this through a harness, like a third party provider that still routes through one of Claude or one of Anthropic's models, it'll still produce this watermark. Now, the reason why I mentioned the EU is because they're reacting to the EU, their guidelines on AI. And so what I've noticed and what we've talked about is that Anthropic tends to do things first. They tend to be the fastest to roll things out, and then after Anthropic rolls things out, the other providers tend to roll them out. And in my opinion, I think like OpenAI, ChatGPT tends to do things just a little more comprehensively, a little more user friendly, just a little better. But Anthropic definitely rolls things out first. So if you aren't aware of that watermarking feature, it's there. Now, there's a couple practical reasons why they would do this that I agree with, and there's things that I don't agree with. So I'm not an undergrad student anymore. I'm working on a second master's degree, a PhD, that kind of stuff. But if you're like young and you're in school, in high school and in college, and you're having AI just write everything for you and research everything for you, like that's a problem because you don't know how to do that. Like when I was a kid, I remember staying up all night. I'd have a couple friends over and we'd all be sitting around the table with our laptops and we'd be banging our heads against the wall because it was miserable. It was miserable trying to write a 10-page paper, a 30-page paper, looking up research material. Back in those days, sometimes you'd have to go to the library if you couldn't find, because not everything was online. And it was difficult writing a research paper, and you'd write a research paper and the instructor would give you back a B or a B minus, and you'd be like, what, a B minus? You'd have to talk to the instructor, sit down, walk them through what you did, and then maybe they give you a B plus or they give you an A. And it was hard. It was not easy. And going through that hard process when I was an undergrad taught me the skills of how to actually do research, how to read, how to think critically, how to go through different books and underlying materials, or highlight things for different books that were in PDF form, which was harder to get in those days. Keep in mind, I was an undergrad 20 years ago. So, like the application there of someone trying to plagiarize and Anthropic putting controls in place that doesn't allow them, I agree with completely. The application where we hear in the news that lawyers, yeah, attorneys, trial lawyers, attorneys have pulled together documentation and material, submitted it to the judge, and it like made up facts and figures that didn't exist, and the judge caught it, or someone on the judge's staff caught it. Like these are examples of where we have problems. I don't think these are AI's problems. I think these are people problems. Lazy people are always going to look for an excuse and the easy way to do things, and they're not going to learn and they're not going to get better. So in that regard, I can appreciate where the EU is coming from. I appreciate where Anthropic is trying to put controls in place. When I think about every other application of AI, this watermark is a disaster. Like when I think about, like, as a business owner, if I want to have my AI communicate and respond to clients via email, automatically draft billing summaries, send it to them, that's well within my right as a paying user of these services. And if at some point someone is to come back to me and say, well, this client correspondence was done via AI, I can tell via the watermark, or this invoice was sent via AI, I can tell via the watermark. Well, so what? Who cares? It's within my right. It's within your right to do that. So this watermark thing is a big deal because it's not just Anthropic. Once again, they tend to do things first, and then all of the other providers, at least in the U.S., tend to follow suit. So I think that in some ways, like I said, if you're a student, if you're a legal professional, and you're trying to not do the work, or you're trying to pass off work that's not yours, that just AI drafted, um, that's a problem. Like we've talked about for many years, you want to use AI as a partner. So maybe sometimes AI drafts things first and you edit it. Maybe sometimes you draft things first and you have AI edit it. But it's kind of like a check, like you would have an assistant. If you had important information going out, you say, hey, tell your assistant, hey, can you just take a look at this for me? And people aren't doing that. So in those applications, I think the watermark is good. For all other applications, I think the watermark is horrible. I think it's a bad idea. Once again, guys, what am I offering to you? Whether you want to have this personally, or you have a small to medium sized business, or you're working inside of a big corporate conglomerate, I can either come on site or we can dial in remotely. I will install for you an open harness, like an open claw, like a Hermes, that will automatically route and connect to 50s. I saw something that had over 100 different providers. Right now, personally, I'm connected to over 10 different providers. They're all 100% free. And I have additional routing in place that says, don't just give me the answer. But so, for example, if the automated routing goes to OpenAI, it then passes it to Claude, it then passes it to Gemini, and then the three of them produce an answer because they go back and forth, and it's really the most cost efficient for an automated routing perspective. If you're more of a fan of the global models, Alibaba just released a whole ton of free models. The Kimi models, DeepSeek, and the idea is that you can use any harness you want. Like I said, like an open claw, an open source, a Hermes, and it will go out and use, if you don't want to do it free like I do it, it'll go out and use the most cost efficient way to use your tokens. Like I said, if you're paying for OpenAI and Claude and Gemini, it'll go across those, use the most cost efficient token. You can do that council thing like I do. And in addition, I have just a little script, a little skill I built that basically says, um, because it randomly chooses based on like a health rating scale, it randomly chooses a provider to give me an answer. And if the skill I built says, if the output of that answer, if the final output is Claude or something from Anthropic, and I know it's going to have those built-in watermarks, I just have it repipe it through another model like it would when I do my counseling anyway. Counseling meaning multiple models come up with an answer instead of one, and then the watermark is gone. And it's really that simple. So the purpose here is not so much to bypass the watermark. The purpose here is to say you're a business owner, you're an operator, you're a professional in a big environment, and you want to use AI the way you want to use AI to get stuff done. And you don't want to deal with this, oh, you use too many tokens, now you need to pay more money. Oh, this has a watermark, now you need to redo it. Or whatever the next thing that they're going to come out with is. I will come on site, or I will dial in remotely, or if I have admin privileges in your big corporate business, I'm going to need admin privileges to install this stuff. We're going to install an open harness with an open router that automatically routes to 50 different free models, or that switches your tokens across paid models so it's the most cost efficient possible. You have multiple backups, multiple redundancies. Like we've talked about in the past, we'll install Graphify, we'll install Obsidian so that you can access this stuff from anywhere. It's the most token efficient. You're not going to have to deal with watermarks or restrictions. And believe it or not, um, I've packaged this stuff in a way so it's like a double click executable. Like I've done it in a way where you don't have to worry about the configs and the command lines and the yada yada yadas and the blah blah blahs. I've basically set it up in a way where like you would download Microsoft Office and double click it and it installs and it runs. That's kind of how I've packaged it. And I've done that for me because I want to use it on my laptop, I want to use it on my desktop, I want to hook it up to my phone, and I want to really have it run from anywhere. So we can do that for you, whether you want that on your personal device or you want that set up in a cloud environment that you can connect to anywhere, or you want to set up like we've talked about. You want to set up one of your home devices like a personal server and have this stuff run in the background so it's you have total control and you can connect to it from your phone or any of your other devices. And if you're interested in that, please let me know. Um, Bypassing the watermark is just one feature. The the idea though is much deeper, and the idea is they are going to continue to put restrictions on AI, and it's not fair. You're a home builder, and I come to you and I say, "Hey, have you ever seen this thing? It's a hammer." And you're like, "Oh wow, how's it work?" You're like, "This is how this hammer, this is how this tool works. You can build things with it." And you're like, "Oh wow, this is great." And I'm like, "Yeah, for $20 a month, for $200 a month, you can use this hammer however you want, as much as you want." You're like, "Okay, this is great." Now you're dependent on that tool. And then I turn around and say, "Well, it's not $20 a month anymore. Now it's 50. Now it's 500. And you can't use the hammer this way anymore. You need to use it this way. And anytime you use the hammer, I'm going to stamp it with my company so everybody knows that it came from me. It didn't come from you." AI is just a tool like a hammer, and they've made us dependent on these tools. So regardless of what your business is, we're becoming more and more dependent on these tools. And that's a whole nother argument. But what I will do for you is I will set you up with an infrastructure that has all kinds of failovers and redundancies that works 100% of the time in the background. And we can either do it where it's free, or we can do it where it's the most cost efficient, going across the best providers possible. So if you're interested in that, if you're interested in not being put in handcuffs and not being restricted, please feel free to reach out to me, give me a call, and I would love to help you do that. All right, remember to hustle harder, and let's talk again soon. Bye bye.